System Strategy webinar. My name is Gavin Dack, and I'm an SAP Basis consultant within the Intelligence Support Centre in Glasgow. So I will take you through the process and how we plan it, and the different types of client copy and system copy strategies, and which ones we recommend. An overview of what today's webinar will entail. The first one is, what is an SAP system copy? I'll just give you a very high level overview of what it is, and it's quite an idea to run one probably a couple times a year, depending on the you have available in your production system. The different types of SAP system copy are homogeneous and heterogeneous, so I will explain a bit about which of these methods are, and the differences between the two. The next called, what is SAP client copy? Copy and the various forms of client copy and why we use them, and the pros and cons of each of various types of client copy and system copy. The section is obviously summary, and I'll just a note of today's webinar, and I'll open to any questions you feel you need to ask. So, what is SAP system copy? Just generally, throughout the life cycle of your SAP system, you want to do system copy or a migration. There's you have to do it. It's quite a process, but you have to do planning. It's quite a process. If you haven't done one before, it does need a lot of planning, and you have to make what you're doing. So basically, SAP themselves recommend that you perform system copy if you're planning to set up a test system, demo system, or training system, even a proof of concept system. You must perform a system copy if you want to the operating system or database. It's good with documentation, process guides, install guides. They are very, very good. So within Service Marketplace, there's a system copy area, depending on your level of NetWeaver. So if you're on the older systems of 04, NetWeaver 4, you'll get the documentation and the levels of Net 7, 730, 740 are all available. You've got process guides for the ABAP stack, a Java, or both ABAP and stack-based systems if you've got a dual stack system. So yes, the area system copy will be invaluable, guys. It's really, really very, very, very good. There's two different types of SAP system copy. There's a homogeneous system copy and a system copy. Each process and the key differences with both. System copy is if you're staying in the same operating system and same database system as your source system. So, for example, if you are building a new training system from your production data, they may use Windows Server 2012 and use Microsoft SQL Server 2012, then a homogeneous system copy would need the new test to be on the same operating and same database, i.e. Windows 2012 and Microsoft SQL Server 2012. So that's what homogeneous system copy is: your source system in the same operating system and database level as your system. That's what a homogeneous system copy. And a heterogeneous system copy, you've probably guessed by now, is if you are changing your operating system or database. There's a heterogeneous system copy, or migration is another term that's used. Within the Glasgow Support Centre, we've already done a number of homogeneous system copies. A database migration or operating system migration is slightly more technical. This task would be undertaken by our basis field consultants. But generally, if you're doing a homogeneous system copy, we for you within the Glasgow Support Centre. That's the only two options available. So just a quick recap: homogeneous system copy is a target system and is going to running the same operating system and database as your source system. Heterogeneous system copy is if you're changing either operating system, database, or both. Then you second option, heterogeneous system copy. If anything changes, that's what you would use, or a migration, as SAP like to call it. As with the previous slide, SAP have got really good documentation on the process. It details any prerequisite tasks you need to do. They are also within service.sap.com, and it's the Inst Guides section. So depending on your release and what version, there will be a guide catered for your specific system. As I said, I find this area invaluable. It really is a fantastic place to just about the different strategies for a homogeneous and a heterogeneous system copy and the things you have to take into consideration. So if you're planning on one, I would certainly say make a pitch here just to get what you need to do. That we've got the next section is now SAP client copy. There's a number of options for client copy. I will only highlight. I think there's three options, so I'll only highlight two of them. The third one is all you don't tend to use that method, so I will just concentrate on two out of the three. As you can, SAP client copy in terms is transferring client-specific data. A system refresh or a homogeneous system copy, it's or nothing. You cannot cherry pick. But it's pretty much the whole shoot match. The entire database structure, tables, and data is copied over. With an SAP client copy, you can cherry pick specific data depending on what you're doing. So that's what a client copy is. It's just transferring client specific data from one system to another or system. A client copy can be performed by three different methods. As I said a couple of weeks ago, we only really use two out of these three methods. The third method is, Ed now said it's obsolete, but I'll explain it anyway. Fifth is a local client copy. Is a remote client copy. The next slide will just detail what is and how you carry them out. The first option is a client import export. As I said, we don't use this method. SAP have said as technology has put it on databases are now more powerful, there's no need to use option. Whether you use option 1, local client copy, or option 2, client copy. What is client copy versus a remote client copy? Well, a client copy is basically when you are a new client within this instance. So, for example, if you have a development system and you're planning to create a new sort of development client within your dev, use a local client copy method. So you would create the client within your dev system, and then you would copy the data new client in the dev system. This is what they call a local client copy. It's just local to whatever instance you're logged on. In this case, it's a dev instance. And to perform that, you would use transaction code SCCL. And obviously L stands for local. So that's local client copy would be unkin using the transaction code SCCL. Again, there's a lot of information on servers.sap.com on what needs taken into consideration when performing a local client copy. So again, I would ask you to sit there and just get what requisite tasks are and any strategies that you'll need to use. A very quick slide. So the LP is data from one client to another client on the same instance, your same dev. That's what they call a local client copy. And you guess what a remote client copy is. That's a remote client copy is a method used to copy client data between completely two separate instances. So, for example, if you're doing a data refresh exercise from production into QAS, you would then use a remote client copy method. You would set the up in your quality system via action code SCC9 and point the connection to your production system, and it pulls the data over that way. That's what they call a remote client copy. It's moving data or copying data within different instances at production into QAS or QS into F. That's what we call a remote client copy. Again, Server.com has got real information on with the prerequisite task. This method, remote client copy method, is more labour and sort of PU memory and IO than the local client copy version because it's done over the network. So yeah, just pay particularly when you're trying to do a remote client copy. As above, but if you're moving application data between different instances, i.e. production into QAS, then this is as a remote copy. As I said on the previous slide, there's a number of options available to copy from it's how you go about using these. You can there's really guide why you would use one over the other, but from my own personal experience, I would much use a copy method over a link copy. It's for and system. This can while the production system is up and running, so it doesn't affect your day-to-day running of your business. A remote client copy, you would have to lock down your production system. That's what users hold background processing. So it's quite a lot of planning involved. Whereas a system copy is you can restore the base from above and build it that way. We find this approach is far quicker and there's less impact on this business. I've seen a remote client copy take 4 or 5 days. During that time, you can't access them, because if there's any changes in the production system, then this can have an effect on the getting transferred over. You can corrupt data. I've seen that happen before, so that's why I much prefer using a complete system copy approach rather than the client copy. But it's entirely yourself. If you can have that length of downtime, then it's yourself. But yeah, system copies, it's lesser impact than a client copy. Just for what benefits, what each area does. So a complete SAP system to a same platform, operating system is the same, and database is called a Homogeneous system copy. A complete SAP system to a different platform, either a different operating system or different database, is called heterogeneous system copy, or a migration. If you're copying client data from one system to another, then that's called a client copy. And as I said, there's 3 options available for you to do a client copy. If you're copying the same instance, i.e. you're just copying data between the dev and creating a new dev client, then you'd use the local client copy option. If you're copying data between 2 separate systems, that's copying a system refresh from production into QAS, then we would use the remote client copy option. The options I said in the previous two to go is the client import and export. We generally don't use this method at all. SAP, there's been no official sent out by SAP. Now said that because architecture has moved on somewhat over the last 5 or 6 years, then there's really no need to do an export using this method. The systems are more than capable of doing a local or remote copy. It's generally, if your system is on older architecture, and I mean if you're still using Windows Server 2.3, then you would probably want to do an export version. But if you're on 2008 or 2012, then use the local client copy and remote copy. But as I said, we generally don't use the method. And just a recap of what system copy is. Copy is used to copy the entire system from one area to another, and you can copy this or SAP system copy tools. There's, depending on what database you're using, this will have that will database for you. Something to take into consideration before you're doing a system copy. you need to put how big your database system is on your target system. Sorry, your sum, and then will that database fit onto whatever system you're copying over? So if the servers have got the same capacity, then you shouldn't have to worry about anything. But just make sure if you're copying, if your system, just make sure that there's adequate storage available to accommodate the extensive parallel processing techniques for this. I think when you do a system copy approach, use like SAP-INST, you can have I think the default setting is 5 background jobs, but you can increase this. With a system copy, it's not data specific; it's all or nothing. So you cannot select, you cannot cherry pick with, like, for example, customization data, user data, authorizations, master data. You cannot do this with a system copy. It's all or nothing. Heterogeneous system copy, as I said, that's a migration. We wouldn't do that within Glasgow ourselves. We have a based consultant team which will, because there's more planning needs to be involved when you're performing a migration. The client copy is only used to copy specific client data. So if you just want to copy user data, like options and profiles, use a client copy. In master data, then select, you use a client copy. The time needed for a copy is based on the client size and your hardware capacity. Slightly older, as I said, if you're on older architecture, for example, Windows Server 2003, it will longer time to run than, say, if you're on 2008 or Windows 12 or whatever operating system you're using. Copy, you're very, very limited in parallel processing techniques. There's really no time scale to measure against. That's why I much prefer to use a system copy method, because the time involved. You only use a copy if you're copying specific data over, as I said, and this will be performed by anyone who's has a general understanding of the copy technique. And as I said earlier, the SAP-INST info guides, the system copy area, there's very, very good documentation on how to plan this and to keep down minimal for copy. Floor is open to questions. That's me.